Oh my God, Jordan Peterson blubbering again.
I've got to wrap it up. I don't want to, but I have to. I want to ask you just quickly, the film director Olivia Wilde has a new movie out, which she says is based on you, this insane man, this pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Incel being these weirdo loner men who are despicable in many ways. Is that you? Are you the intellectual hero to these people?
Well, is it? Are you that person?
Sure. Why not? You know, people have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. You know, what a terrible thing to do that is. I thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
It's making you emotional. Talk about that.
Well, God, you know.
Where's camera 2? There it is.
Constantly. How many people are dying for lack of an encouraging word?
Isn't it a word? That's all they're asking for.
And how easy it is to provide that if you're careful. You know, give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, why can't we do that,
And
man?
to say, you're a net force for good if you want to be.
This is a seriously troubled dude.
Do you believe you're a net force for good?
Net? Yes.
Who is it that deserves Jordan Peterson's attention and encouragement?
You know, they don't get encouragement. And people need so little encouragement. It's just unbelievable. And so they'll tell me something good, and I think, oh, that's so good. You know, somebody says, oh, I'm getting along way better with my father. I hadn't seen him for 10 years, and now we get along. It's like, God, great. And then the power of that, you can't overstate the power of that for individuals to get their life together.
I think it's clear who deserves Jordan Peterson's attention, who he thinks deserves his attention and encouragement. Angry young white boys and people that pay him to watch him talk at length. You know what he is? This guy is he's like a Bronte heroine in a romantic novel. You know, just like stoically shouldering his unfair burden in an unfair world. But he's no Jane Eyre because he's way more weepy than any of the Bronte girls' heroines were. This dude needs a fainting couch. That probably explains why he's constantly trying to turn like a Victorian phrase to make it seem like, you know, he's all that. Like he's got some street cred in this Victorian novel that he's living in. He's utter bullshit.
The criminal physician.
And Ellen Page just had her breasts cut off by a criminal physician.
Criminal physician, exactly. So my question is the physician really criminal? If you agree that adults can decide to transition, then why would the physician be criminal? Don't adults have that right if they want to transition?
These people shouldn't have rights, and they certainly shouldn't be encouraged.
Not everything legal isn't criminal.
Not the crying, blubbering Peterson.
Do they have
now.
that right?
This is the angry
See, I would have
Peterson.
left Ellen Page alone if she hadn't been parading her new abs in a fashion magazine. How many kids do you think she can convince to convert? One?
Yeah.
1,000? No, not, yeah.
No,
really?
I want to respond to that. I think that with the trans community, it's very similar to the gay community, where back when that first became a big issue, people thought, oh, if we talk about it, if it's in magazines or whatever, we're promoting kids to go down that path. But really what happened is people are who they are. And if they're gay, they just decided to be like, yeah, I'm gay. And they were just more open and honest with themselves. So I don't think you're promoting people to do that.
No,
you're
that's
just
not
saying,
what happened.
if you
You're
are that, it's
completely
okay.
wrong.
Okay. Well,
You're utterly
I'm
wrong.
listening.
There's
I'm
nothing
listening.
about that that's right. Total.
So what percentage of the population do you think, in your conception of how this is unfolding, what percentage of the population do you think is going to end up being trans at the end of this? Do you think like one day it's going to be like 70% of the country is trans?
Well, we know already that about 1 in 5 adolescents now identifies, to use that hated word, identifies as
Hate. Yeah, there's no compassion or encouragement here. This is the wrong people. These people they deserve nothing but fucking ire and anger and ugliness. Look at this motherfucker.
Oppose it.
Incoming freshmen next year, University of Toronto, Stanford University, 18-year-old kids coming into this. We've been through 3 years of COVID. I won't rehearse it all. One sentence. What would you say to them as they begin university at the age of 18 or 19? What's the restorative, the redemptive sentence? What should they do?
Don't be thinking your ambition is corrupt.
As long as it fits into his vision of the world order.
You know, because that's part of the message now. Human beings, we're a cancer on the planet. We're headed for an environmental apocalypse. The entire historical structure is nothing but atrocity, et cetera, et cetera. Anyone with any ethical aim whatsoever is just going to pull back. You don't want to manifest any ambition, support the patriarchal structure, exploit the environment. You've got to crush yourself down. You shouldn't even have any children. It's like, no. There's no excuse for that. There's zero excuse for that. I saw a professor at an event, something like this. He came out and trumpeted this bloody environmentally friendly house he built. And, you know, fair enough, man. It was a pretty interesting house, but not everybody had the $4 million that it took him to build it. And I'm not criticizing his money even. It's like, he's had some money. Good for him. He built a house. Okay. But then to trumpet that as a moral virtue, well, you're pushing it there. And then he came out to all the kids and he said, you know, my wife and I decided that we were only going to have one child. And I think that's one of the most ethical things we could have possibly done. And I would strongly encourage you to do the same.
You know that this take on whatever situation he was in there is totally disingenuous. I'm sure it didn't go down that way. Of course, this guy wasn't, you know, encouraging everybody to only have one child. He was very happy to do it himself. But overall, he's basically saying to be virtuous is not a virtue. To be concerned with the environment and all those that live in it is not where virtue is. The virtue is for what you can go and get for yourself. And if you exemplify to the world, you know, a global awareness, then you're the enemy. You're the one stealing somebody's potential. He's making it an either-or proposition that is not correct. One can be both motivated to succeed in the world and also care about everybody that lives in it.
I thought, you son of a bitch. You get up in front of these young people. A lot of these kids were children of first-generation immigrants from China. And he showed all these images, you know, of these terrible factories in China, these endless rows of sterile mechanism that were subordinating all the Chinese people to this terrible, you know, capitalist machine. And I thought, you don't understand. Half the audience is looking at those factories and thinking, that's a hell of a lot better than struggling through the mud under Mao, buddy.
This is Peterson. He thinks that to be socially aware, to be environmentally aware is a con job. That, you know, you take a look at these Chinese people that were living in a horrible environment that he just described, you know, in great detail. And he's saying that should be good enough. And he has said this before. There's just people that are stupid and there's people that are poor. And there's nothing we can do about it. That's just the way it is. You know, this dude would be totally happy being like the landed gentry. You know, he's definitely a Jefferson man. I don't even have to look that up. I'm sure that's what he is. That, you know, this is just the way it is, man. There's you poor serfs, and there's me, and people like me, and people that follow me. And, you know, if he didn't have that, he would be like turn of the century baron, you know, an industrialist. He would be, well, this is just the way it is, man. You people are just poor and stupid, and that's the way it works, and you should be happy with that.
There's no excuse for that. And you think, well, you know, we're going to destroy the planet. We have to do this. We have to demoralize the youth to be ethical. It's like, yeah, really, that's your theory? You're going to demoralize young people to be ethical? That's your theory? It's like, you should go home and think about that for like a year. And I'm passionate about this, you know, because
this video clip is basically a twofer because you get both the angry, just hostile Peterson, angry that the world is socially advancing around him, and also you get the weepy Peterson, longing for the landed gentry days of old.
You have no idea how many people that's killing. You have no idea. I see people everywhere, all over the world. They're so demoralized, especially young people, especially young people with a conscience, because they've been told since they were little that there's nothing to them but corruption and power. It's like, how the hell do you expect them to react? You know, well, I shouldn't do anything, man, you know.
That guy is unhealthy. There's something seriously wrong with him, and not even a funny way. But he makes it sound as if everybody else is making the world sound horrible and frightening to him, and he's trying to transfer that to everybody else. See how horrible and frightening everyone else is making the world sound?
I talk a lot to my audiences about what I believe to be incontrovertible facts. And I think that the fundamental incontrovertible fact is that life is suffering. And I think that that's why that's a primary axiom of religious belief, in some sense, almost regardless of the faith, that life is suffering. And everyone knows that, although they don't necessarily like to admit it or to talk about it. I mean, you don't have to scrape beneath the surface very far in someone's life to find a tragedy lurking if the person that you're speaking with doesn't have something pretty awful happening to them right at the moment, economically or socially or within their family or physically or mentally. The probability that someone they love has a problem of that sort is extraordinarily high. And if you happen to be among the fortunate minority for whom that isn't true, well, all you have to do is wait, and it will be true soon enough.
Now that sounds depressing. That's his own polished video, and it goes on like that for 10 minutes. Of just how fucking depressing the world is to him. The guy he should stop speaking. He should just pack it in and give up. That dude is there's something wrong with him.
Sometimes the objective world and the narrative world touch.
Yeah.
And partly because it's too terrifying a reality to fully believe. I don't even know what would happen to you if you fully believed
Jordan.
it. When it's necessary. And if you do that, then you have something, I wouldn't say necessarily to be proud of, but at least you have one less thing to upbraid yourself with.
Braid myself with. All right, Jane.
And that's something. And then you can move past that and you can say, well, maybe if you put yourself together enough, carefully enough, spoke the truth enough, were courageous enough, in spite of the reasons you have not to be, that you could also be. You do it because you don't want them to burn. And I think there's too much of the moral authority still in the church and not enough of the love that helps people avoid the fire.
This guy.
You got him.
I know I was like, there's something seriously wrong with him. What is wrong with him? And then I found out he had some dependency, but that was a couple years ago.
It's a rough pleasure, but
these are all recent. There's seriously something wrong with him.
So I wouldn't change that. But it's not nothing. And it's certainly not just happiness. It's better than happiness, but it's almost unbearable.
This is the best way to end it. Just how uncomfortable this guy feels next to him. I'd feel uncomfortable too. I'd be like, dude, you need serious help. I'm not fucking around. You need help.
God, tears again.